Hello everybody, you're all very welcome to this Instagram Live with me, Dónal O'Connor, Artistic Director of the Belfast TradFest. This is the latest in a series of Instagram Lives that I've been doing with some of the upcoming artists at this year's festival. We've done chats with Brian Finnegan of Flute, with Myrny Churrin from Anchiad Glunella, with Michael McGoldrick, the great flute and whistle player and piper from Manchester. And the most recent one we did with the great Gino Lipari of Four Men and a Dog. We had a great chat with the wonderful Gino, Boron player, singer, frontman, and all-round entertainer with Four Men and a Dog. So tonight I'll be joined by Joanie Madden, the founder and driving force behind the internationally acclaimed Cherish the Ladies. And Joanie was born in New York in the Bronx, in fact, to Irish parents from counties Clare and Galway. And she's an All-Ireland champion on both flute and tin whistle, the first American to win the senior All-Ireland whistle title. And she is the founder and leader of the great Cherish the Ladies, the wonderful American-Irish all-female group performing at Belfast TradFest with Cherish the Ladies on Sunday, the 26th of July in the Mandela Hall, the amazing Mandela Hall. And we're very, very excited. We've had the Cherish Ladies a couple of years ago. I'm very excited to welcome them back. Hi, Joanie.
I'm just figuring this out.
You've got it.
Do I go
sideways? Don't go sideways, no. You still there? I think you've frozen. So yeah, Joanie, there you are. You're back. How are you keeping?
Well, I'm sweating now because I was like, oh God, I don't know how to do this.
This is new to me too. I've done a series of these now. I'm just about getting the hang of it. But it's a nice way to have a chat with people and for other people to listen in or watch and for them to engage with it. You know, we've had people posting comments and posting questions, and we hope that people will do that again tonight. I try and get through as many of the questions and comments as. So if you have any questions out there you'd like to ask Joanie, please do just put them in the comment section. Somebody, Big Irish World says, up is the right way, Joanie.
You can tell I'm an old dog when I don't know. You have to, I always see the kids with them up.
James Kinnear Music says, evening from Edinburgh.
Hello there.
And Karen McElroy says, amazing, Cherish the Ladies, big red love heart. So people are dialing in here already, and we're looking forward to having a good chat with Joanie. As I was just saying, you're coming back to Belfast, Joanie, not just to perform with Cherish the Ladies, but to teach.
Well, this is my third time you're bringing me back. And let me tell you, the fact that I'm coming back for a third time says a lot about you and the organization. Every time I've gone there, there's just such a welcome and such a change in Belfast from me going down there over the decades. The welcome sign is over the door. Come on in. Trad music is loved. Everybody's appreciating it. To see the change in the town, all the people come from all over the world. I have people in my class from Japan and Canada and America and Scotland and of course all across Ireland, and people from Copenhagen, and they're coming from everywhere. And
From everywhere. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
We had students from 34 countries last year, which is remarkable. You know, this will be our 8th edition.
Wow.
And it's a big deal for us for you to come and teach, because I know that you don't do lots of summer schools. You don't do week-long teaching festivals that much because you have such a busy schedule with the band and many other things.
You know what? I have to say, not only do you create an incredible environment for the students, but you create an incredible environment for the teachers. And for all of us, I mean, just look at that roster. I mean, it is the who's who of the who's who. And not only do we get to see each other every day, but we get to play with each other and we get to hang out with each other. So for all of us musicians who are usually ships passing in the night, as you know, Dónal, it's a wonderful time to regroup and have the crack with all the great teachers. I mean, we're busy. I mean, all the teachers are working. We're doing classes during the day. We're doing sessions at night. We're doing concerts, and we get to play with all the students and get to hang out with everybody. And it's a wonderful thing. Everybody's so welcoming. I really can't say that enough. And the crack is mighty. At every session you go, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's just to see how it's grown to now. It's not just it's one of the finest schools of Irish music anywhere in the world, without a doubt. One of the top. I
Well,
don't know.
it's very nice to hear that, Joni. We really try very hard. It's artist led. I as a musician and as a player know what it's like to be, in the teacher's position, having done camps all over the world and weekend and week long teaching. So we always try and look after the artists and look after the musicians, and we try and make it as easy as possible. I think one of the big advantages we have. It's a different experience to come to Belfast as a summer school than it is to go to Milltown Malby, the pinnacle of traditional music summer schools. Still, it's a rural west coast of Ireland. Milltown Malby's in County Clare, so you can slip down to Spanish Point after your classes, and it's a very very different experience. And we offer an urban experience, so we're in a city centre. And we're very, very lucky to have partnered with the Ulster University as our partner for the summer school. And we have a brand new.
The facilities are incredible. I mean, every room is gorgeous. Everybody's got room to play. I'm not hearing what's going next door. There's isolation, and then even when you take lunch, you can either go down and have it in the Union there, or you can head out to all the incredible restaurants. Where in Milltown Malby, where I am right now, where my mom comes from. This is my house here in County Clare. It is a whole different vibe, but it's a wonderful vibe because, again, everybody gets to hang out, to have their lunches. They're not running really too far.
Yeah.
But to see, to see the classes starting and to see the hundreds of people heading for the doors with uilleann pipes and cellos and bowrons
Yeah.
and fiddles and whistles and banjos and concertinas, to see them coming from all over and running and getting dropped off. And how many students did you have last year?
So last year we had 900, just over 900 students, and like in the first year, Joni, when we set it up, we thought if we could get 100 students, that would be an incredible thing for us, and we did. We crossed the 100 student mark, which was a great milestone in your first year, and it has grown and grown and grown, and like this year, I think there's already almost 900 students signed up. So we expect to cross the 1,000 student mark, but it's not really. Chasing numbers isn't really what we've done. What we've done is just try and keep pace with the appetite for it. There's such an appetite for that week long, like yourself. Sometimes people are learning instruments through the year, and the case gets closed in June at the end of school term, and it doesn't get opened again until September. And
Right.
a summer school experience is like a turbo boost in that process. It just gives you such a lift.
Yeah, but let's go back. Let's go back to the teachers. I mean, for me, my hero was Mary Bergen when I was learning the whistle. And Mary Bergen is teaching, at your
Yeah,
classes, summer
yeah,
classes.
yeah,
So to have my hero, what I wouldn't have done to have had a week with her. The opportunity. And what's been amazing to me, again, seeing these young kids come over the years and how the summer classes have really affected their playing, how much better they are coming back.
yeah.
And they make what I really, and I know when we used to go to the Flack Hills or go to any of the festivals, the best thing was making friends. And you meet other kids that are doing what you do, and you're not crazy, that you're in
Yeah.
love with this music. And I see all these pals, these kids hanging out together and meeting each other, and I make them all talk before we start classes, and they're talking and shouting and chatting, and by the end of the week they're old pals.
Yeah, yeah.
And these
And
are these are going to continue on for decades. I know I'm going to see these guys because I know it happened to me. I made some of my best buddies, met them at Flack Hills, coming from America, from the Bronx, and here I am playing this Irish music, and
Yeah.
but I made friends and incredible friends, and I'm still friends with them till this day. 40 years later, and I
It's
know what's going to
remarkable.
happen with all those kids too. And
Yeah.
again, there's been a couple of kids have won All Ireland championships in the classes. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's remarkable, and we see that, I suppose, like the reason we set up the summer school, the Belfast TradFest summer school, was that there was no such thing in the north of Ireland, or in Belfast, or in the six counties here, and we many of us who are involved had those experiences at Milltown Malby or Tubbercurry or Drumshambo in County Leitrim, and knew the benefit of it, and just felt that our young people here who maybe didn't have the resources to go all the way down to County Clare or to County Sligo, or maybe the family interest wasn't there because they're not from a traditional music family as such, that we could provide something that was accessible here. And we're very proud. We run an early bird rate right up to the 1st of January, and it's £99 for the 5 days tuition, and you get the 5 morning classes from 10 to 1, but then you get access into all the afternoon events and all the talks and lectures and discussions.
Excuse me, can I say something? That's for nothing.
Yeah, it's accessible, and even with that, Joni, there are people who would struggle with that financially, and so we give out 107 bursaries last year to young people of disadvantage and who may not have attended otherwise. So, and our chair Ray Morgan drives that process. We go out to businesses and individuals and organizations, and we ask them to sponsor a bursary, and we raised
Wow,
enough to sponsor 107 bursaries last year. So that
that's
work
incredible.
continues.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And we think it's very important because I mean the danger, I suppose, is that something like traditional music just becomes a middle class pursuit, and that's something that none of us want. We want everybody to have
Yeah.
access to this and to feel the richness of the tradition that we have been lucky enough to be part of and be inspired by, and to make a life. Like Joni, you've made a life in
I
music.
mean, no, but the one thing too that you find by your parents are always trying to keep the kids out of trouble, keep them busy, and keep them out of trouble. And when
Yeah,
you see all the kids that are at that school, they're all lovely kids, and the kids are hanging around with lovely kids.
yeah,
And you are who you hang around with, and it's a wonderful introduction for them. What I can't get over, and I can't stress enough, is to see the friendships from when they come on Monday, the first day, and how they leave on Friday, and go off and they have lunch and they're out kicking a ball or having a great time. And
yeah,
but for
yeah.
me, I have made a life of music as you have, Dónal. I mean, we're so lovely and so lucky that we've gotten to do this. And but it's also very important to me because I can't teach. I'm on the road too much. I'm traveling. So for me, it's great to give back because I was so lucky growing up in New York. I had all these masters that emigrated to America, and they couldn't share enough insight with me or help me out as much or encourage me more. I think the best thing they ever gave me was encouragement. And
And
I, it's
what was the learning process like for you, Joni? Can you paint a picture as to how did you learn music as a young person?
Well, my father was a really great accordion player. My dad was an All Ireland champion on the box, and he grew up in a little area in East Galway that was just, I mean, within 12 or 13 miles, you had Joe Burke, and you had Joe Cooley, and you had Paddy O'Brien, and you had my father and Martin Mulhare and Sean McGlynn, all these incredible box players that came from this little neck of the woods. John Joe Ford, so many great accordion players. And my dad, he grew up in a small little farm, and they emigrated to America. He had to go try to get ahead and make a life for himself. And but he won the junior and under 18, and then he went that to I went to America. I went to England first, then over to America. Met my mom over there. My dad was from Fertumna in East Galway. My mom, and my dad, he put the accordion under the bed. He didn't meet any other players. They didn't have internet or Google to tell him where to go, and he was a carpenter by trade. And then he got a phone call from Paddy Kaloran. And Paddy heard that my dad was out and that he was looking for a box player. And he called my father and he went to go hear him. And they were playing they would play the jigs and reels, but then they were doing all this other stuff, jitterbugs, he said, and all this other modern music to play waltzes and all that, quick steps. And my father's like, the hell with that. I'm not doing. And then what happened that week, he got a phone call from his mother saying that his dad had had a massive heart attack. And so they needed the money. So my father called back Paddy Kaloran and he joined Paddy's band and was with them for a couple of years. And then
But
when
even
Paddy,
even to say that, Joni, like the name Paddy Cloran, so like for those that may not know out there, Paddy Cloran was one of the great Sligo fiddle players who emigrated to America and recorded like in the same generation, same time as Michael Coleman,
yeah,
James Morrison, and so like Paddy Cloran's name seems like something very far away. So for somebody of my generation, but your father played with him.
yeah, worked with him for years. And it was wonderful because my mom would go and Paddy Cloran's wife would go, and Paddy's wife was from Milltown Malbay as well. So they had my mom being from Milltown, they'd have great chats about all the people. So but then when Paddy called my father to the hospital bed when he was past, he was getting ready to die, I guess, and he gave my father the band and told him to carry on and handle on all the gigs. So, and then my father became a very well known. He had a 13-piece orchestra. He played for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of weddings and dances, and I guess he noticed I was one of 7 kids, and he noticed early on that I had music in me. But he was of the belief that you didn't force music. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But
Okay.
he did manage to buy a fiddle for me, and I had another brother Patrick who was also very musical, and he started us off on like classical lessons. He wanted us to learn. the proper
Good
way
technique and
and
yeah,
technique
yeah.
and how to read, because my father never could read a note of music as so many in that genre did. And then I took maybe 6 months of fiddle lessons. I hated it. My mother used to say, "Get in there and practice your fiddle," and I hated it. So I told Paul Ryan, I said, "Tell her I'm quitting." He came running through the house. "Where is she? Where is she? Let me talk to her." Anyway, and then we had a piano in the house, and I took 2 lessons on the piano, and I didn't like that either. Because I asked the lady for a reel, and she said, "You have to give me the sheet music." I said, "I don't have sheet music. You got to give me the music." So that was that for the piano. And then one day, a friend of mine came over. My friend of my parents came over for a penny whistle, a tin whistle lesson. And I had never in all my life, in all the sessions, every house party, because the people that were regulars in our house would be Jack Cohn and Mike Rafferty, was a great East Galway football flute player. Mike Preston, who was the flute player with the Tulloch band, and he was one of my father's best friends. And we'd have Matty Conley on the uilleann pipes, and Martin Mulhare, and Sean McGlynn, who was an incredible accordion player, Felix Stolen on the piano, Paddy Reynolds, Andy McGann.
Wow.
All those wonderful people were all great friends, and I grew up listening to them at every house party and every hoolie, and then, but I had never seen a tin whistle. I'd only seen the flute.
Okay.
So this girl came over and she was taking the tin whistle lessons, and I said, "I love that. I want to play that." And my father more or less said, "You can go scratch your ass with a broken bottle." He wasn't wasting any more money on me. So thank God I was babysitting. I was 12 years old, and was babysitting across the street. So it was $5 for the whistle and $3 for the lesson. And I had just made $10 babysitting. So I bought my first whistle, and Jack Cohn lived 5 doors away from us. I grew up in a little Woodlawn, the section of the Bronx called Woodlawn, and like Eileen Ivers was 2 streets away from me,
Okay.
so we grew up in the same school. But Eileen was when I started, she was already 5 or 6 times All Ireland champion. And I remember she said to me, "You're playing music?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "What are you playing?" I said, I'm playing the tin whistle. And she said to me, "The tin whistle's for babies." I said, every time she calls me now to play on one of her records, I tell her, "The tin whistle's for babies."
Well, it's great to bust that myth, Joanie, because I think sometimes people assume when you grow up in a musical household with a musical parent or musical parents that every dinner time is sitting down playing tunes, and it's as we know, that's not the case. So you actually had to step outside of the family home yourself and with your own initiative to
Well,
get
you
it
know what? He
started.
he, he knew he was doing psychology on me.
Yeah.
But I had my first lesson with Jack, and I was hooked. And then my father, so I started learning a few tunes from Jack, the basic ones, as you do. And then my dad set up a reel-to-reel tape recorder in my bedroom, and he said, "Now learn all them." So I just started on the tape and started learning all the old tunes, and we had so many great.
And what was playing on the reel to reel?
Oh, he was really great for recording, and the incredible thing is, all the reel-to-reel tapes. My father gave it to some guy to digitize them, and a can of glue was dropped down on him.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, I'm talking a box like 4 feet high, full of reel-to-reel tapes of all the greats.
Mm.
So I mean, whether Paddy Carty was in town or anybody was in town, they'd all come, and they'd all meet. Anybody coming to New York, they'd all hook up, and but it would be Paddy O'Brien, and all those ones that I was mentioning earlier.
And who was your dad particularly, smitten by musically? Who was he telling you to
Oh, he
listen
loved
to?
Paddy O'Brien. Paddy O'Brien. But my father, I'll have to send you it. He was really a great accordion player. He was.
Yeah.
He was. Everybody loved him, and whether it be Billy McComiskey or any of all the younger accordion players looked up to my dad. He was one of the big, stalwarts of the traditional music scene in New York. He
So
didn't
he was,
travel.
so he was for Tumna in Galway, and your mother. You mentioned that you're in Milltown Malby now. Your mother was from Milltown Malby.
Yeah, my mom's still around. My father unfortunately tripped going down the stairs when he was 70 and broke his neck. So
Oh,
that was that. But I had
sorry to
just
hear
gotten
that.
in the recording studio with Charlie and with him for a couple of hours, and we got I don't know how we did it, but we got 14 tracks done.
Nice
And
to
I
have that.
and a few months later he tripped, and that was it. We were, so I'm delighted to have that recording. And
You're lucky to have that. Yeah.
yeah.
And was there music in your mother's family and her side of the family?
Well, my mother's mother would be first cousins with Joe Ryan, the great Clare fiddle player. He'd be a great.
Okay.
He was, and there was,
Joe ended up. Joe ended up in his latter years living up in County Louth, and as a kid, I used to sit in beside him in sessions, and it was like, do you remember Back to the Future, Doc? Joe had the hair going up the back,
Yeah.
and he'd be sitting quiet. He was a quiet man from what I remember, and he was a
Yes.
beautiful player, and I just used to love being in his presence. I just felt there was a kind of something calming and special about him. But then, he played, and he got a lot of notes on the one bow
He did.
at
He
that
did.
stage.
You know what? The crazy thing is, I met him once, and I never really got a chance to play with him. I used to spend a lot of time in East Galway with the musicians up there, and I didn't come down here to Clare as much as I should. And then again, but my mom, she loved the Clare sets,
So how did you end up living back in Milltown? How did that come about?
Well, it's a funny story, to tell you, Donal. When my dad passed, my mother wanted me to come back for a wedding, and I told her no, I wasn't coming because was so busy. I said, "Mom, I'm too busy," and we have a 5-week tour in September with the band here in Ireland. And I said, "I'm not coming over." She wanted me to come. I said, "You have 4 brothers living." She still has 4 brothers here in the town, and her sister has a house up at the White Strand. I have 4 big farmers around here, my uncles,
Yes.
and but she hounded me and hounded. She wanted me to come, and then she gave me the Irish mammy guilt. She said, "I can't believe you won't come with me." And I'm like, "Oh Jesus!" So then I said to myself, "Look at your father gone like that, you know." And I said, "If she wants you to go, just go." And I called her. I said, "Okay, Mom, I'm going to go, but we're going to stay in our own. We're going to stay in our own house. I want to rent my own place. I got work to do, and I don't want, I got things to do." Okay, okay. And then I tried to rent a place, and I was on the phone for like two or 3 weeks calling everybody and their mother. And it wound up, there was an incredible man named Jack Whalen, who was the president of the Milltown Malbay Association in America. And my father played every Milltown dance for 37 years in a row. And Jack and my dad were great friends, and I had played Jack's funeral, and I'd gone to the wake, and he had passed away. And I said, "Oh, I was in bed sleeping, and I sat up in the bed, and I said, 'Oh, Jack Whalen's house.'" So I called Maureen the next day, and I said, "Maureen, I said, can I rent your house for 3 weeks with my mom? I'm going back." And she said, "Oh, no, 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 Joanie." I said, "Maureen, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked you." She says, "No, it's going on the market on Monday." And it had always been a dream to have a house here. And at the time, the houses had really crashed, and I got very fortunate. So bought the house here. I did an awful lot of work to it. But when I was cleaning out the closet, she said, we can't come back. They were in America. I said, "We'll clean it out. Don't worry about it." But I'm cleaning out the closet, and I found an 8x10 picture of myself in the closet. Now,
Yes.
how many houses do you buy and you find a picture of yourself in the closet?
That's gas.
Yeah.
And like you're on the road a lot, so like I don't know how much time, much of the year you get spending in Milton Maldy, and we all know it from that famous first week in July. But what's the scene like there through the winter, Joni? Do you go out for tunes, or is there?
Well, in America, we usually do a very big Christmas tour with Cherish the Ladies, and then we're January, February. I'm usually running my cruises. I'm not here for too much of the winter, but there's so much music. There's like now Friels has music 7 nights a week, and there's 3 or 4 of the pubs have 3 or 4 nights of music. There's music in this town all the time, and
And do you have the urge to go out and play?
oh yeah, oh yeah, and the people here have welcomed me. It's just unbelievable how much they've welcomed me, and I helped organize my first festival here on the May Bank holiday weekend.
I saw
Um,
that.
yeah, and it went incredible. So it was
So
like
why
it was
why
like
why did you decide to run a weekend festival in Milton Maldy?
well, you know what's like when you have a town that's taking you in. I had done a bunch of major concerts to raise money to rebuild the hall. I wound up raising 38,000 euro course of number of concerts to help defray the costs. And all the small towns are hurting everywhere in Ireland, and they're closing up. And I just always wanted to give something because there's so much to offer here. And I didn't want to step because we have a fantastic Crenew festival in February, and of course we have Willie Clancy. And it just happened that Cherish the Ladies wasn't working on that Maybank holiday weekend. So I said, we have a little committee with like Anya Hensey and Mary Coogan
Onions,
and
great.
Bruce. Yeah, and just 5 or 6 of us got together, 6, maybe 7 of us. We got together, kept it small, and we said, let's just run with it. And
And
everything,
what was the intention, Joni? Like what was your plan?
our plan was basically, I don't care what kind of music you have going. There's going to be plenty of trad. I want singing. I want a little waltzing and jiving. I want some set dancing, a little bit of everything. And we did plenty of workshops. And things for the kids, something for everyone, and just wanted to bring everybody out in the community. And I'm telling you, it was an absolute roaring success. And
So
it was like Willie before, kind of like Willie Clancy before it got too big.
that's very big,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
And so
people
it'll
could
happen
really
again
enjoy
then.
it.
It'll happen again.
Oh Lord! But to see the thanks from all the people in the town, and it was great to have Cherish here as well. And we're delighted to be doing the first gig. Are we doing the opening concert, right?
That's right. Yeah, you're doing the first show at the festival at 1 o'clock in the Mandela Hall on Sunday the 26th. And the last time you were here, the gig was just so well received, Joni. I mean, everybody came out of that gig absolutely buzzing. You had a great lineup. You had brought guests. You had brought dancers. You know, what I mean, you and I had an arrangement for, I think it was a 5-piece band or a 6-piece
Yeah,
band. But you, as per usual, you go and you add more here and you add more there. And you're so generous with
yeah.
you're such a generous spirit. I was on the phone this morning with Paul Keating.
Ah,
He rang me about some other things, and we ended up talking about you and the Cherish coming, and we both agreed that your spirit of generosity is something which is remarkable, you know, and it oozes out of you and it flows, and you're generous with praise for other young artists and other established
hi.
artists, you know, your peers as well, and you're generous with opportunities for all of the people that play with you and that join the band. And you have so many guests that come along at different, you know, each Cherish show is going to be different from the last because you have an open door policy. And a lot of people, I suppose, that run a band would be nervous about introducing guests and they don't like disrupting, you know, the core of what they have. But you have a very open door policy.
I know, but you know what? Um, to me, the fact that we've still going 4 decades on, 41 and a half years going now. And, we performed thousands and thousands and thousands of concerts all over the world. And I'm so lucky who I have in the band. Morella Murray is on accordion. Mary Coogan's with me since the very beginning on guitar. Nulla Casey, who's also teaching fiddle. Morella's teaching at the festival as well.
That's right.
Nullick's teaching fiddle. And we're very proud of Nullick because she just got her PhD this weekend.
Woohoo.
So we're very proud of her for that. I
Dr.
mean, that's
Nolly Casey,
Dr.
amazing.
Nullick.
And Nolig
um,
is like for those out there that might be familiar with Nolig and those that aren't. Nolig is originally from County Cork and from there's the Beara Peninsula, I think.
yeah, well,
Or
she's from Bandon, but her people from
The people
Allihies.
from there.
Allihies,
Yeah,
yeah.
Allihies, yeah. And she performed with her partner in music and in life, Artie McGlynn, for many, many years. Her sister, Marnie Cahasey, who's been a teacher at the TradFest, and Chris, her husband, a brilliant guitarist. And she's just like Nullig for years did a lot of work with Dónal Lunny in his she was a member of Planxty at one point, and you know, just like one of the great, and also was probably the pioneer in bridging the gap between the world of classical fiddle and traditional fiddle, and something that like you mentioned there earlier on about, you know, the piano teacher saying, do you have the notes for
Yeah,
you know, do you have the charts for the tunes? Like
yes.
the two worlds were quite separate, you know, until relatively recently, and there's a kind of a coming together and not so much emerging, but there's a great respect now between the worlds of classical and traditional music. But that wasn't always the case, and so Nullig was a real pioneer in bringing classical
She's
techniques.
certainly no, she's incredible, and she can do it all.
You can,
An incredible way for backing songs, and she's got an incredible ear for harmony,
and a
and
great composer as well, a great
yes,
composer of
she
tunes and the
she she
music.
really is.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
So
have
Nolly will
Morella.
teach fiddle at the summer school, and you
Yeah,
mentioned Morella. Morella will be taking the adults only, so over 18s mixed instrument class, and I know she
yeah,
did
but
that for us before.
she loves that,
Yeah,
and she can handle it. She's a fantastic teacher. I mean, Morella has taught 25 All Ireland champion piano accordion players.
wow,
That's some statement, yeah. So I
wow,
mean, and she's an All Ireland champion. Nullick's All Ireland champion as well.
yeah,
And then we're bringing Kathleen Boyle, our piano player, too. She'll be there, and
that's right.
we call her KT, and she's again another. She's got her degree in music from the Royal Conservatoire in Glasgow, and she's a fantastic teacher. There's some people that can play but they can't teach,
Yeah.
but these guys can do it all. They can
Well,
they
we're really
can.
excited to have them back, and so that's the current lineup. But going right back to the start, Johnny, like, why did you form, or how did you form Cherish the Ladies, or how did it come about?
Well, I'd love to tell you that was my idea, but back in 1983, go back to the year of the flood. I got very lucky. I won the All Ireland on the whistle and the flute and the duet, and we got second in the Cayley band. And Eileen Ivers had won the fiddle. So here we were as Irish Americans coming back to America with all these All Iron champions. It was just, because it does take a village, and all these people had supported us, and we were so great to win it for when the medals for our country and for all the teachers that taught us. And Mick Maloney called me up when I got home. He said, to tell me congratulations. And we had a Cayley band, and there was 9 women in the Cayley band, and Tommy Smith on the drums.
Okay.
But like this was never set up to be all girls. That's just the way it happened. And Mick Maloney called me up, and he says, Joanie, this is incredible. This is absolutely historical. What's going on here? He said, I want to do a concert series featuring women musicians, and I want you to help me to pick the people, everybody, and I want you to organize, I want you to MC it, and I want you to help, and I said, well, what are you going to call the series? Cherish the Ladies? I just said it off the top of my head, and he goes, oh, that's a great name. We'll call it that, and so we got together. They got a grant from New York State Council on the Arts, and we worked together with an arts council, and we did 3 concerts. And it was really just a series of individuals, and Liz Carroll was in there, and all these great musicians. And we did all 3 concerts were completely sold out in New York City. And then we went on to record our first album, and that was chosen by the Library of Congress as the best folk album of the year. And through that, we received a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to go on a 2-week tour. And we did the 2-week tour, and it was fantastic. And then the next year, Mick organized about 12 gigs from New York State. And they said, you're on your own. And then I was like, okay. And so I called the girls up and I said, should I see if I can try and should I see if I can get a few gigs? They're like, yeah, because we were having a ball. And so I started.
Joni, who was around at the time? Like what other bands were out touring at that stage in America?
You'd have, of course, the Chieftains, and you had Dannon really was around. And I remember Stockton's Wing too. We loved them, but those were kind of the ones that were really on the move back then.
And was the Chieftains something that you would have kind of looked at and thought, okay, that's a model to aspire to, or that's the way to do things? Like Paddy was obviously an innovator and a pioneer himself.
Later on, a few years later, I just kind of said to the girls, I'll try, and so I became a booking agent. And I would call, and that again, we had no internet, so I would buy up publications. I would try and find up all these things. I'd go to the library looking at publications of libraries of places that were having concerts, and I'd call up. I'd say, "Hi, this is Joanie Madden from Cherish the Ladies." They say, "What church are you with?" And I would try and get shows and get the band going, and so we got a few gigs. And then, we got a few more, and then they were great. And then we got a few more gigs, and then people would say, I thought you would be, I remember being out in Montana, I thought you were just like a Spice Girls, like, cutesy. But damn, you girls can play. But, and we were like, everybody was a very powerful musician, and we had great dancers, and I mean, but you're going to find it hard to believe, but I wouldn't talk. I didn't talk for the first couple of years on the stage.
That is hard to believe. Tell me that. So your first gig outside of America, do you remember that?
Yes, our first gig. Well, one of the first gigs we were. The first time I went back. This is a funny story because I went back to Enoch Paddy O'Brien, and now the band was kind of getting established. And I was introduced, Joe Burke. I was there with my dad, and there was Enoch, Paddy O'Brien, and Nina, and we were there. And the Lord Mayor of Nina introduced me and said, please welcome Joanie Madden, leader of Worship the Women.
Worship the Women, yeah, it doesn't have quite the same ring to it yet.
No, but I'll tell you, but our first gig, I remember some man telling me, "What do you play?" We were coming to play, and they were just like, first off, girls can't play the flute. And I said, "Oh yes, they can." And he also said, but when we first came to tour here, Ireland just welcomed us with open arms. And now we everywhere we go, we kind of sell out, which is wonderful. We've been building the reputation, and we have, but we have Kate Purcell will be singing with us, and Kate's a gorgeous singer, and we'll always
Kate
have.
Was with you the last time, and she was, she's a beautiful singer, really well received, great rapport with the audience. She's got a nice way with her, and
Yes.
Listen, we'll continue with the band. There's a few questions coming in here, and I want people to continue to fire up comments and questions. So I better get through a few of these if we wanted to keep putting up. So Karen McElroy says, anytime you want a wee support act, give Tully a shout.
Oh,
Um,
actually, we heard of them. They're very good. We've been meaning to do something with you, haven't we, Karen? Okay.
there you go, Karen McElroy. James Kinnear Music says, what's your go-to session spot in Belfast? Got it to be missing you, but it was great to see you at the old ground in Ennis last month.
Well, I had a great session in Madden's. You know what it is? Any session you guys got going on, it's a go-to spot. I mean, every night in Belfast, there was something going on everywhere, and it was everyone I went to couldn't be
Yeah.
better.
And one of the things we've tried to do is to bring in this concept of old style Katie House listening sessions. So for the first hour, the three programmed musicians who are excited to get to play with each other, because like sometimes these musicians you never get to see them, you never get to have a tune with them. You might meet them in an airport,
Right.
and you're zipping by each other, and so the musicians are all really looking forward to playing with each other. And then sometimes with such excitement and big crowds, a load of people pile into the session, and the three program musicians never even get to start a tune. So
Yeah.
we decided we wanted to implement a slightly different way of approaching the sessions. This year we have 130 sessions on the Dunval's Irish Whiskey Session Trail, and we have
That's crazy.
three program musicians in each session. So that's almost 400 musicians. So the first hour is like the listening hour. So the three musicians play together, and the three musicians decide when to open the floor. So it could be after the first set, or it could be after an hour of music together, depending on how the vibe is in the room. So we just think it's a nice way for people to appreciate the three program musicians, first and foremost, for them to have a tune, and then for the floor to be opened and for people to be, because like when I was growing up, you wouldn't have played a tune in a session unless you were asked to join by the musicians that were there. You
Well,
wouldn't
that's
have you wouldn't
yep.
have taken a seat. You wouldn't have taken your instrument out of the case without somebody saying, "Are you going to play a tune? Will you join us?" And I think some of that has kind of fallen by the wayside. And a lot of musicians that I speak to now, really, really well established and brilliant musicians, have kind of fallen out of love with playing sessions at festivals because it's a bit of a free for all and it's a bit of a cattle mart, and it can be hard to be heard, to get a space to breathe. So we're trying to sort of just give people a little bit of space to make music together, for people to listen, because as we know, the experience of listening is as important as playing for all of
Well,
us.
you know what? The only way you learn, if you want to get better, you have to play with better, but you also have to listen better.
Yeah,
And that you'll learn more from listening sometimes than playing.
yeah.
For me, I've enjoyed every session I've been a part of. Again, there's such enthusiasm, and people are very respectful.
Oh, that's
But
good.
I think
That's
that's a
good.
wonderful. But I think that's a wonderful idea. Even
Good.
if
Well, so we'll see how it goes, and we're relying on the musicians to sort of keep people in check. Karen Smith says, looking forward to looking after you all, Joanie, at the Mandela Hall TradFest Mammy. And Karen is one of our team. She's amazing. She's loved by all the artists. Question here from another Karen. There's a load of Karens on here. How do you know what to focus on in teaching students you just meet?
Well, when you sit down, you kind of have you kind of start off very basic with something easy enough, and you see how people are picking it up. And what I love, and we had it very much so in the last year, when Mary Bergen, she'll say to me, "I'm taking the advanced," but she goes, she wants the intermediate. I'll say, "I take the intermediate, you take the advanced." But what we do, which is wonderful, if I see somebody struggling with my class, I'll take them aside quietly and say, "Listen, why don't you go down to Mary? You'll be a
Yeah,
little bit, and if you're not good at Mary, Mary will take you down to the maybe a little slower
yeah,
class." And
and that's
that's what's
very
great.
important.
That's what's great to have all those levels, and people have the opportunity, because there's nothing worse than somebody coming into class and it being too much on them. You
Yeah, yeah,
want them to be at their speed,
yeah.
and also you don't want one person holding back.
No,
If you got a bunch of rip roarers going, and there's some very good little kids coming up.
there
um
is.
you know
Yeah, and
um
that's something we struggled with in the early years when we had like small, tiny budgets and small numbers. That I was always trying to push for more classes, because to grade people properly, you need a minimum of three classes: lower, intermediate, and advanced. Thankfully, now on a lot of the instruments, we're like the fiddle. I think we're going to have like maybe 13 or 14 classes, so you can really grade properly, and you can get a lot of the young kids into a class with a really good teacher, who's because teaching lower intermediates and just above beginners is a skill that not all brilliant musicians have. As you and I know, it's
Yes.
probably the hardest. I mean, it's easier to teach advanced students in a way than it is to teach the lower intermediates, because you're dealing with techniques and holding problems and all that kind of stuff. So to have the bigger numbers of tutors and bigger numbers of classes makes it much easier for us to grade. There's a comment in here. Florlin Hardy Florist says, Joanie, you're an inspiration to our young musicians, and we look forward to many, many more years of the May Day Festival here in Milton Malby. Bernard Keelty says, hey, we love you here in Connecticut. And Karen McElroy says, love it. Thanks, Joanie. Rafferty Nee says, what's your favourite current tune at the minute, Joanie?
Oh, well, I've been writing a few tunes lately, so I usually like my own little my own little tune that I wrote. A couple of tunes that I've written lately are my favorites at the moment, I guess.
Well, you've written some amazing tunes. I mean, the Cat's Meow is just like, it's embedded in the tradition now. I mean, there are not that many tunes that get written within our lifetimes that sit in the middle of the tradition. And somebody once described it to me as like the tradition is like a train, and new tunes get on at the next stop. And if they're no good, they get off at the stop after that. But if they're good, they stay on the train. And so your tunes certainly do.
I'll
Francis
tell you.
Shannon says, I saw Cherish the Ladies in Milltown Malby on the Saturday night of the May Day Bank Holiday. The May Day Bank Holiday is getting a good shout out here, Joni. You were fantastic. Looking forward to next year already. And James Kinnear Music said we had some great times in the Sunflower Bar in the last number of years with yourself, Joni. So there you go. It's a good recommendation. So the band is a kind of a big part of your diary, your calendar, but it's not the only thing. That's a little bit about the other things you get up to.
Well, I mean, to me, the band has always been. I dedicated my life to the band. I told everybody quit their jobs, I'll keep them working, and we were doing like up to 200 dates a year for a good few years. Now the whole scene has changed very much since COVID, and the amount of venues people used to have a performing arts center in America. So if they 365 nights of the year, they would do 280 nights a year. But now they're doing 70 nights a year. And
Okay.
that's kind of the way the industry has gone. People they're not booking as many Celtic concerts as they were. But I'm very proud. Like we're still doing. We have a big March tour. We'll have a big Christmas tour. And then I've been running cruises and running bus tour. I started running cruises. I did cruises with the Clancy brothers when I first started out, and I did like 17 or 18 with them. I was
What did
very good.
that look like, Joni? I mean, with the Clancys in your early years, like what did a cruise gig look like, or what did it feel like? Can you paint that picture for people?
Well. I mean, Liam Clancy. I don't know. He took a liking to me and myself and Eileen Ivers and another great friend of ours, Gabriel Donahue. We played on every one of the cruises, but they would take one room, and you'd have music from say 8 to 11:30 or something. It was just one room. And they probably had 300 or 400 people. But on my first cruise, we had almost 600 people, and now we get 1,100 people. I cap it at 1,100, and I
So,
bring
so
like.
for those that don't know what your cruise is or what it involves, can you give us a sense of what going on a Joni cruise is like for a punter?
Well, I think our schedule is 12 pages for the week. We'll start music at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it goes till 3 in the morning. And I bring over 100 musicians and singers and dancers, and maybe
Wow.
about another 250 musicians come that play. And then there's people come from all over the world, and it's just become everybody who comes just loves it, because again, it's that situation where everybody is getting to see each other and hang out with each other, and we make the schedule, and we put people together that never work together and see what happens. And there's workshops with all the instruments, and it's just an absolute ball. And you head to the Caribbean for a week, and it's free drink and free food and all your entertainment, and I'm pulling into these ports and in the Caribbean, what's not to like. But that next year, I've just taken the year off. I just because I'll tell you, it's so much work.
It's a
I
lot of
know
work.
that's why I sit, like, for me to organize a week. I know how much work it goes in. It's not a week's work. It's a
No,
year's work. So
it's
I
a year's work.
for me to see and admire what you and the Belfast Trad Committee have done. And I mean, I saw your digital your digital booklet. It's like, is it 56 pages or something?
84 pages. We've a thousand
84. I
musicians.
mean,
Yeah, we've a
uh,
thousand musicians coming. We've 600 events over the. You know, like when you're doing these things, you know all the stats in your head. You can see you're like a human walking spreadsheet. But we've got almost 600 events in 40 venues. And like you said there, you know, if you're programming 600, if you're programming 100 musicians for the cruise, like just the practicalities of that, that's a minimum of one email to each musician. Quite often, you know, the exchange over and back can be multiple. There can be
oh
dozens
no,
of
no,
emails.
it doesn't stop. And
Yeah.
but for me, I just know how much work you guys, and I know the economic boom to Belfast, what this brings in. And for every arts dollar that you get, if there three comes in, that's kind of the you
Yeah,
know
well, we have to measure that stuff for our funding from. We get funding from. Thankfully, we get some funding from Tourism Northern Ireland, and you know when you're filling in the post project reports and stuff, you have to go through their metric calculators to figure out how many bed nights and all of that
yeah.
that makes sense to their investment. So last year it was estimated that we delivered an economic impact of 3.1 million. And last year we would have got £20,000 from Belfast City Council, and we got 45, I think, from tourism. So, that kind of money being then turned into 3.1 million of economic impact, it makes huge
I
sense.
mean, look at that. Look at that. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and and
and
not
it's
only
positive
that,
for
but
the city. It paints Belfast in such a positive light.
well, that's what I was going to say. The sun was shining on Belfast for that week, and it just for me, like who has been going to Belfast for so many years, for so many decades, to see the way that all the people from both sides were loving the music and loving the crack. And you send me, I always do a gig kind of that
In
we
East Belfast.
in East
Yeah,
Belfast, and I've
yeah,
yeah, I'm doing it again. I see,
yeah,
and but I've got to become great friends with these people who I never met before. They're incredible musicians playing
yeah,
pipes and drums,
yeah,
and they're all incredible guys, and it's wonderful to come together. And we all can come together, and we all
yeah.
love the same things, and it's
And
a
I think,
wonderful positive spin on life, and it's all good. It's what we need more of.
well, it's a thrill for us that you're involved in that, and that you're central to that. So the pipe and drum concert will this take place this year in Stormont in the Parliament buildings, where all of the politics of the North happens,
Huge.
and it's hosted by the Minister for Communities. The current Minister for Communities is Gordon Lyons of the DUP, of the Democratic Unionist Party, and last year we had Mervyn Gibson of the Orange Order, and we had Gavin Robinson of the DUP, and we had lots of politicians from lots of different parties. And we've worked very hard at TradFest to show people that traditional music belongs to everybody, that the world of fiddle and flute and the world of Highland pipe and snare drum and fife, all these tunes are the same. We're all playing the same tunes. Some things have become appropriated by political and religious groups over the years, and the
Yeah.
troubles polarized um, uh, it's society, and music wasn't averse to that. Music was dragged into that as well, and we've worked really hard to break down those barriers and the perceived
Exactly.
notions of something belonging to one or the other. So that concert is a great celebration of that, and you'll be on the stage on I think it's Thursday the 29th, Thursday the 30th. I should know these things, but every year you're trying to remember
I
the
think it's
dates,
30th and 30th.
they shift one day. Yeah, and you'll be on the stage with the likes of Mark Wilson, the great snare drummer, Len Graham, the legendary traditional singer, my own uncle, Andy McGregor, our
He's
vice
your
chair.
he's your uncle.
Len is, yeah, yeah, and he's Len. I think is 84 this year, and still going strong and singing great. And in fact, he's about to publish a collection of his life collection of songs, which will be, he tells me, three times as big as the Sam Henry song collection, which is an iconic song
Wow.
collection here in
Well,
Ulster.
that's if that book is like that.
Yeah, you're going to need
Well,
a
Len,
forklift.
I never knew that. I never put that together that he was your uncle, and I've
Yeah,
loved him. I'm a massive admirer of that man, and he
well,
used to come
Len's
to
amazing.
Elkins. Oh yeah,
And he's going to be teaching. In fact, I've created a new kind of a model for Len. So Len will teach the afternoon traditional singing class this year, because we're running out of space in the university. So we started doing afternoon classes, so that people. Initially, we started doing it because some people would say to us, like, "I really want to do fiddle class," but I also would love to do guitar. So we're giving people the opportunity to do two instruments if they want, or to do sean-nós dancing or set dancing in the
Right.
afternoon. So, and Len in the mornings is going to come in. I told him not too early. I said, drift in sort of 11 o'clock and be like a roving bard through the university. And he's free to call into the classes and to hang out with some of the tutors and to sing songs and tell
He
stories.
can
Because he's
come into
got,
my class. You tell him, come into my class.
well, he's got so much to give, and he's got so many great stories and great yarns and great songs. So I'm
Oh,
kind of excited about that.
he's one of the greatest. He'll go down in history as one of the greatest. His name will be known for hundreds of years. He's one of
Yeah,
the
he's
best
amazing.
ever.
Also on that gig, we've got the brilliant sean-nós dancer from Connemara, Becky Nieliha, and I've seen her at first hand. She's in the Muir Nagarlov band with us at the minute, and she won the step competition this year, the biggest sort of accolade in sean-nós dancing at the Oireachtas. She's on the gig. Amy Farrell Courtney, who you know very well, the great board player,
Great bow on player.
she jumped up with Cherish the Ladies last year, or the
Yeah,
last time we were here.
she's
Uh,
around again. I'll be dragging her up again.
well, if you're watching Amy, be ready for that. Kim Carney, the great Scottish singer, we're delighted to have her, and Ailish Sutherland, the amazing small piper from the Isle of Skye. We'll have the Campbell College Pipe Band and Pipe Major Graham Harris, and lots more besides. And you'll be in the middle of all of that. So that's very exciting. And we do that in partnership with the East Side Arts Festival, which is based in East Belfast, and the Strand Art Centre, a beautiful old Art Deco cinema, which is currently being redeveloped into an art centre in East Belfast. We're
Oh
very
wow,
excited, and we
I
hope
was
to do
there.
it.
Yeah,
You were
wow.
there years ago, yeah. So that's been a building site for the last couple of years, but we're really looking forward to having that developed when it does come back on stream. So the traditional scene is incredibly strong at the minute, Joni. Like when you go to program your say your May Day festival or your cruises, there's no shortage of talent. It's unbelievable.
No, but you know what? There's no shortage of talent, but there's no shortage of kids that are coming up. I remember my father in this. They thought the music was going to die. They were all the old guys were really, really, really worried about the music. Well, they don't have to worry about nothing because there's to see the standard of the kids, young kids, and I'll be down listening to the kids down at Willie Clancy, but I'll be up there in Belfast listening to those kids too, and it's just amazing. There's such so many dedicated teachers
Yeah.
keeping the kids going but you make it fun for them. You have fun with the kids and they'll enjoy it. And then, the more fun you have with them, they're cracking up and they're making friends, cracking up.
Well, you're great like that. I've seen that at first hand. Going into your class, they're all giggling and laughing, and they're you keep them entertained. So, like, where do you think the tradition is going, or what's the future for the tradition? Like you talked about, your dad, and I remember my granny saying, "Oh, the words saving the music were used regularly. We need to
Yeah.
save the music," and but that's it's gone past that now, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd say it's tough seeing now. You don't know with all this AI business and what everything is going to go in, but you still can't beat coming out to a concert and the crack having the crack with the audience or having the crack with the musician or shaking the hand and being with real life people but it's great to see the music in such a great place. It's amazing and I think my hat is off to you guys and all you're doing up there, and I'm really looking forward to coming up. So the 26th with Cherish the Ladies, and we'll have dancers, we'll have the whole kit and caboodle again. It's going to be a great show, and I'll be there teaching all week. And again, Morella Murray, I'll be on accordion, and Nulla will be on fiddle, and Kathleen Boyle will be there, and just folks or anybody, just if you're wondering whether we should do this, do not even think twice.
Yeah,
It's wonderful, and and
and we're
and go check
welcoming.
out the teachers, the lineup,
Yeah,
it's the whole flow.
we've over 70 tutors this year in all the different instruments, but and some of the afternoon talks and lectures and screenings. Like I remember one year you were in a brilliant one with Mick McCauley and maybe it was Sean Smith as well in how a young person might go about making a life in music. Like what's your key when you see a brilliant sort of All Ireland winning under 18 flute or whistle or pipe player, what kind of advice would you give a young musician like that who wants to make a life in music, Joni?
Well, first thing I would tell you to do is go get a degree. Get your degree, and have that to fall back on. And for me, I gave my parents a heart attack. They were so worried about me, but I wanted to get a degree in music, and my parents said no. It'll be you have that you'll go nowhere with that. Where nowadays you can do a lot of things. But
Yeah.
I strongly believe if you love something and you put enough work into anything, you will, if you work harder than the next guy or the next girl, you will certainly succeed. But I mean, I've worked very hard, and I'm always open to sharing any advice I can give to any young touring band or even my fellow bands. If I learned a secret, I share it with everybody, and that's it's very good, because now it's the record companies are really gone. You're on your own. I would tell everybody, don't make CDs anymore. Make USBs, because that's what people want. We're selling with Cherish the Ladies. We'll be selling 10 USBs to one CD, because people don't have a CD player in the car anymore,
Very
and
interesting. Yeah.
they want to, so like that's but I'm big on sharing information and helping anybody I can, because
And one of the things you'll be doing during the week is a kind of an open discussion more than any kind of a formal talk. And a lot of our afternoon events are just that. There are people sitting around in chairs having a chat. But yourself and Brian Conway and Caitlin Cullen Burhouse, brilliant cellist who we had at our launch, who grew up in New York, just talking about growing up in New York and growing up in America, and the notion of kind of lying in bed in the Bronx or in Manhattan or somewhere, dreaming about getting to compete in the flagpoles, and then dreaming about maybe getting to Ireland to compete in the All Ireland final, and maybe play a gig in Ireland, or maybe bring your band to Ireland as you did.
Yeah.
And I think that's those kind of chats and those kind of discussions are great for young and not so young people to get an insight into what the life is really like.
You come up with some very clever concepts, and very open discussions, and where people can learn. And even my listening to Sean and Mick McCauley, I was learning from them, and I was asking questions.
Yeah.
Which all those things are wonderful. So like you have your lessons in the day, and you have these very interesting kind of meetups or chats with the top players, and it's an incredible experience for any young person who can get us alone and ask us any questions. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, if anybody has any questions for me, you're welcome to email me at Cherish the Ladies. Just contact at Cherish the Ladies. I'll be glad to help anybody if you have
You're
a
very good.
question.
Well, listen, this hour has just, I mean, where did that hour go? We're coming to a close, and I'm just going to fire you a couple of quick fire questions, Joanie. I hope you don't mind. So, what is your favorite instrument, tin whistle or flute?
Tin whistle.
Okay, favorite county in Ireland to play in? And you can't say
Ooh.
Clare just because you're there.
Galway.
Okay, the dad's county. Favorite country in the world to play in?
Ooh. Oh, that's a tricky one. Well, we love playing America. I love Alaska.
Okay, very nice. Favorite tune to finish a gig with?
Oh boy. We've been finishing up with a tune I wrote called, Liz Carroll wrote a tune for me called Are You Joanie Madden? And I wrote a reel for her called No, I'm Liz Carroll. So that's the one we finish up with.
No, I'm Liz Carroll. Right, we'll have to learn that one. One musician every young musician should listen to.
Well, if you're Mary Bergen, if you listen to listen to Whistle, listen to Mary Bergen, listen to Matt Malloy, listen to Frankie Gavin, but you have some of the greatest out there. But very, very important. I mean, for me, how I learned how to play was listening. I played with Mary. Because there was no whistle players in America. I played with Mary Bergen on her record every day. That's how I learned how to play, playing with her record. And when I finally met her, the greatest thing when I did finally win the All Ireland was the best thing to me was that her name was on the cup, and she was coming to New Jersey, and I couldn't wait, and I brought the cup, and I went up and I met her, and I shook her hand, and I said, I just want to thank you for teaching me how to play the tin whistle. And she looked at me and she says, I don't ever remember meeting you. I said, no, I never met you, but you taught me how to play, because I got to listen to her, so I can't stress that enough to all you people.
Mary's amazing, and we've had Mary back, I think, every year, and she sends me a text and says, "Will you please have me back? I love the Belfast TradFest. I love Belfast." And we've always tried to mix it up and have different tutors every year, but there's only one Mary Bergen, the
She's the
world's
queen.
greatest.
She's the queen.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
gets to come back as long as she wants.
we're honoured to have her. Message here from Simeone McCallan. Joanie and Cherish the Ladies are awesome. Their talents are beyond measure. They bring such joy to everybody. Caddy Tours says, great interview this afternoon. So to conclude, Joanie, if you go back to sort of the 18-year-old Joanie who's won the All Ireland and hoping to make a life in music, If you weren't a musician, what might you have been?
Well, I was going to college to be an accountant before I quit to quit go to music when I nearly gave my parents a heart attack. But you know what? If you do whatever you do in life, whatever you love and you're willing to work hard at, you will succeed. I don't care what it is. Just keep learning, keep meeting, and it's all you know. I think the most important thing I ever did was I would say I'd be going out. I wouldn't be working, but I'd be networking and meeting as many people as you can, and learning from as many people as you can. I think that's the key to success. Caddy Tours is my bus. The guy who runs my bus tour is Nali Yog. He's fantastic.
Oh,
So
very
hello.
good. Well, listen, that's stellar advice. And on that note, I think we'll wrap, Joni. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to chat. We could sit here talking all night and all day. And I know somebody said this has been a wonderful chat this afternoon. So people are dialing in from the States. And really, really looking forward to welcoming you back to Belfast. I know so many people can't wait to be in your class, to be in your sessions, and to come along and see Cherish the Ladies on Sunday, the 26th of July, the opening concert,
We're
Belfast
looking
TradFest
forward to it,
26.
and make your way to Belfast. I don't care wherever you are. Just come up for the day, come up for the week. You won't be sorry. There's something every night. It's hopping.
Thanks so much, Joni. Good luck with everything. We'll talk soon.
See you later, buddy.
Take care.